beautiful friends? What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your weekend was absolutely outstanding. You are ready for Christmas right around the corner, baby. We are excited for it as well. But we got business to attend to here today. We're talking about Fulton County. Let's do a quick preview. Then we'll zoom in for further detail. We got some good stuff to get to today and some disgusting stuff as well. But the good stuff first. We're going to hear about this order denying the quashal. We see that the state election board was going after the state of Georgia. They're in Georgia. They said, we want some of these records. And Judge McBurney came back down. We've covered a lot of McBurney here on this channel from Georgia. And he's not a big fan. He's not on like team the election was rigged or anything like that. He kind of wrote this begrudging order saying that we're going to actually require you to give those files back over to the state election board. And it's good news. So we'll read through it. He got a nice footnote down in here for us as well, saying that Georgia, Fulton County, and all these election fraudsters have to give the files back over to the people who want them. And we're looking forward to that. So we'll go through what the latest is in Georgia. Last week, we covered the 315,000 votes that had a problematic chain of custody. They did not follow the rules. There's a bunch of people out there on X saying, well, it didn't matter. So what? Doesn't mean it's fraudulent if they didn't follow the rules. Did they follow the rules or not? If they didn't follow the rules, then it's invalid. So here is the clip. We'll listen to this of the woman admitting that, yeah, they didn't sign it. So we've got that. We've got Kevin Moncla. We covered some of his stuff earlier and some other updates, especially as it pertains to the Black Voters, the Black Voters Matter Fund. Remember, we talked about them last week when the Black voters were trying to intervene in here, and they were saying, if you disclose any files, you're racist, and they're not going to be able to vote again for whatever reason. So we'll talk about that. Got some clips and some other posts from Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State over there, who in my opinion is about as corrupt as they come. We've also got Dazol and some reaction from Garland Favorito. Remember him? He did a lot of work out there in Georgia. So we got a clip of him. He was on with Steve Bannon and the War Room this morning. And so we'll see what he has to say about the frauds in Georgia. It's all coming up. Then we'll turn our attention to Maxwell. And we've been wanting to see what this indictment looks like. And the superseding indictment has now been unsealed. I was reading through some of it. It's pretty gross. But I wanted to share with you what is inside of it so we can see exactly what has come down. This was sent back out of the Southern District of New York. It is the second indictment, March 29, 2021, now all unsealed. And it's about Maxwell. So we'll go through it. We'll see what the latest is inside it. Not a big document, 119 pages. And basically, they're just reusing a summary witness. Another witness went out and testified about the crimes, and they just brought that person back in, and he's just kind of repeating himself a lot. So we'll fly through it. We'll see what's inside, but getting a lot of attention out there because it's something that we've wanted for a while, to see what was the extent of the Maxwell and the Epstein prosecutions. We've long said here that they were mop-up operations. And how can you tell? Well, you can just kind of look at the grand jury proceedings and see kind of where that went and who else was discussed, if anybody. And of course, nobody else was discussed. It was only Maxwell, only Epstein. They weren't even interested in prosecuting anybody else back then. And so it's a pretty gross indictment, but we'll sanitize it. It's Christmas season. So we'll go through that, see what the latest is. We got some other reaction from Todd Blanche is out, and the DOJ has just been getting hammered over the release. I don't think anybody's really happy about it, but the DOJ is doing what they can. And Todd Blanche is saying the same here. It's like, you know, you guys gave us 30 days. We're working hard on this. No one cared about it until Trump came into office. This was something that had been covered up, and every single politician was complicit in it until they could just use it as an attack vector on the president. So we'll go through that. We'll see what Todd has to say. And then we'll round it out with some updates from the wife-beating illegal alien called Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and see what the latest here is, because the government submitted a joint status report, and we'll go through it, see what both sides are saying. The Kilmar illegal alien ACLU lawyers, they're wanting him to remain free out on custody. But the government is saying, you screwed up, Judge. You said that he didn't have a valid order of removal. If that's true, then that means his immigration proceedings are pending. And if immigration proceedings are pending, that means we can lock his booty up. So we'll talk about this. We'll see what both sides are saying. They're sending this into Judge Zenas Rhymeswith out there in Maryland. And we got some other immigration filings that have been submitted. And they're saying we can deport this guy, okay? Now, if you say he did not have a final order, then we'll just reopen the immigration proceedings and start this whole thing over again. And while it is pending, we can detain him. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about this other illegal alien. Apparently, this guy was released from custody and killed somebody, and then they just released him in Washington. It's crazy times. So we've got cooing judges who are releasing illegal aliens into our cities and to our streets, even after they're trafficking in humans, even after they're hitting and killing people. It's a sick scene. And so Kristi Noem is saying, if you want to get out of here and you're an illegal, we'll give you a Christmas bonus. Okay, so just pack up and go already, for crying out loud. So it's going to be a great stream. We're very happy and glad that you're here and with us. Hopefully all those presents are wrapped soon, because Christmas is coming right around the corner. We're very glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us for an early stream and for subscribing and all the things that we love when you do. Before we get into it on the day, we got a sponsor today, my friends, and we're excited about, of course, our friends at The Wellness Company, baby, because it's flu season. Lots of stuff going around. Various people have the crud. And so it's better to be prepared. And you can do that with your emergency kit from The Wellness Company. It's amazing. If you wake up, you got a sore throat, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's holidays, you can't get in to see a doctor, sore throat, runny nose, whatever. This kit, jam-packed with all sorts of good stuff inside. You've got the ivermectin, the hydroxychloroquine, the Tamiflus, you got the Z-Packs, you got all sorts of stuff. It's like having an urgent care right in your home. If you need it, you just unzip it, open it up, packed with goodies, and you can get it easily and accessible right in your home. So for some, it's a lifesaver. Thousands of reviews all over from people who've gotten their kits and opened it and needed it. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. That's what we say about defense attorneys too. So grab yours. twc.health/Robert is the link you can use. You can use code Robert. You'll save $32 off your kit. twc.health/Robert. Links in the description below, and you'll save. And you can get all those meds just stored right away in case you need them. And so thanks for supporting our sponsors, supporting our show, and making everything that we do here possible. We're grateful for you. All right, so links in the description. Thanks for grabbing it. All right, now, my friends, let's get into it on the day. Georgia fraudsters lose again. You see, this order just came down from the state of Georgia, Fulton County Superior Court. Order denying the quashal. And what the heck is going on right here? Well, you can see here this woman called Sherry Allen. She's with the Fulton County Board of Elections. And the Elections Board wants some files, particularly the rigged files from 2020 that we know are very perverted, don't even have valid chain of custody signatures, according to Georgia rules that are required for 315,000 give or take votes. So a big problem. So now Sherry Allen and the Election Board are suing Georgia. They're saying, hey, we're another government body. We'd like these files. Can you please give them to us? We have drafted a subpoena and sent them over to your booties to wrap those files up in boxes and ship them on over. But then what happened is the state of Georgia said, oh, no, we can't let you see any of these files. We rigged the election, obviously, so we can't let you see the files, or otherwise we're going to go to jail. So they responded. They said, we have to quash the subpoena so that it's no longer effective. Well, what happened, fortunately for the fannies out there, is they just lost, because Judge Robert C.I. McBurney, who is a no fan of election conspiracies or whatever he calls them, he has not been inclined to indulge this conversation. And so he has come down with a begrudging order granting the request and the subpoena. In other words, the attempt to stop the subpoena now fails. He writes this, over half a decade ago, again, he's very begrudging. He doesn't like that he has to do this. On November 3rd, 2020, official electoral counts showed that the majority of voters in Georgia did not select Donald Trump, it's President Trump, punk, as their choice for president. Repeated recounts confirmed the result. And they say that a lot. We recounted everything. We recounted. It's all perfect. Says, nonetheless, some continue, like us, to insist that numerous state tallies were faulty. Yeah, you didn't follow the rules. You guys just admitted it. And that the rot behind them is centered here in Fulton County. That is an understatement of a century. Judge, did you hear Fanny just come testify in her Biggie Smalls outfit? Clearly, there's a lot of rot going on there. The state election board, the SEB, the people who are suing, or at least a majority of its members, have remained particularly fixated on this outcome. He's like, you guys are so annoying. Why do you keep asking about this? On November 5th, 2024, the next election, the day when a majority of voters in Georgia did select Trump. He's like, in 2020, it was free and fair. And your guy didn't win, but now they did win. Like, okay, what happened 4 years later? They did select Trump as their choice for president. What happened was the state election board issued 2 subpoenas. Let's go. To the Fulton County Board of Registration, the BRE. They demanded that the BRE, the state, even though it was in the midst of the busiest and most critical weeks of the year, promptly produce reams of information concerning not the current election, but instead the election from 4 years earlier, okay? He's very upset, you can see. He's like, they're so busy. Trump already lost the last one, and he won this one. And so why are we opening up old issues? Just let bygones be bygones is basically what he's saying. They're not even asking about the current election. But watch this. Now, as stale, he's so bitter, as stale and ill-timed as these requests might seem to be to the casual observer, we're pretty casual here. They were nonetheless inquiries that fell squarely within their authority. Oh no, that sucks for you. Says the law defines their duties under Georgia Law 21-2-31. He's like, oh gosh, they win. The law says they can do this. They have power that includes investigating, when necessary or advisable, the administration of primary and election laws and frauds and irregularities in primaries and elections. They can do it. He's quoting it. And they can take such other action consistent with the law as the board may determine to be conducive to fair, legal, and orderly conduct of primaries and elections. It doesn't say only the most recent election, only the last election. No, it doesn't say that at all. Whatever elections they want, they go back 10 years if they want, 15 years. So evaluating how a particular election jurisdiction performed its vote and its tabulation responsibilities and reviewing the results of those efforts, for example, the ballots and their related papers, is part of what our legislature tasked the election board with power to do. Our Congress in Georgia said they can do these things, and they're doing it. And to obtain such election performance information, the board enjoys, devastating for Fanny, quote, full power to subpoena persons and papers. Period. Full power. Not limited power. If Fanny says it's a conspiracy theory, then your power is eviscerated. That's not what it says. It doesn't say only power for the most recent election or the last election or any of those. Nope. It's power. Now, on November 18th, 2024, after Trump won again for the third time, the due date set forth in the subpoenas, petitioners filed a petition to quash the subpoena. So Fanny Land, Raffensperger, all the Georgia Goon Squad. They said, what? These subpoenas are unreasonable and they're oppressive. Why? Because a white person sent them? They're oppressive to you? You work in the government. It's a government subpoena. Cry harder somewhere else. And that they concern matters that are already resolved, according to the Fannys and the Raffenspergers, who nobody trusts at all. Now, after the state responded, so what happens is the board sues the state. The state says, we're being oppressed. You want our election records? No, you're killing us. After the state and Fannie and Raffensperger responded, the two sides came back and they asked the court to stay any proceedings while they discussed some cost-effective ways for the state to give the board the voluminous materials that it was seeking. Lots of election files over there. Now, this made the attempt to quash timely, although just barely. A party seeking to quash a subpoena must petition the court promptly, and in any event before the time specified in the subpoena. So even the Fannies and the Raffenspergers were like delayed. Man, they're just terrible at their jobs, and they just can't even run an election appropriately. Or they just rigged it. But they say, we want to quash the subpoena. The subpoena's due like tomorrow. They're like, can you quash this? Like, you have to respond by tomorrow. It's a little too late for this. But the judge said, fine. Okay, if you're going to agree to extend the deadline of the subpoena out because you're negotiating it, maybe you don't need to execute or enforce the subpoena because you just send it and they give you everything you want, so you don't need to litigate it. So they're negotiating. Now, when it became clear that no negotiated resolution was forthcoming, the court set a hearing September 8th this year. However, on the eve of the hearing, the petitioners filed an amended petition, the state trying to quash the records from coming out, that recast its claims from a quashal to declaratory and injunctive relief. Okay, so now it's a little bit different. Now they're saying, all right, they've got full power to issue the subpoena. The court really doesn't have power to quash it because the law, as we just read in quotes, says that they can request people and documents. The legislature empowered them to do that. So they're going to lose this argument. They know. They're like, oh, crap. Let's try this again. Let's reframe it to declaratory and injunctive relief. We've already seen how the declarations and the injunctions work. In America, all the judge has to do is they have just carte blanche, according to Judge Zenas, Judge Boasberg, William Alsup in California, all of the other new judges who think that they're running the country, Amir Ali, Judge Chetkin, all of them, they just say due process. Oh no. And so an injunction is necessary to stop some sort of harm. Now, Judge McBurney's not buying it. So he says, this is weird. This procedural swerve where they're like, oh, we're going to lose that, so let's just change everything at the last minute. He says this swerve prompted the state to ask for time to file a motion to dismiss this new amended petition. Now, the court subsequently said, what the heck's going on? So we entered a briefing schedule. We said, all right, I don't know what you're asking for, so why don't you write some briefs on this? And then we'll have a hearing on this, and we'll have a motion to dismiss, and we'll address all of the claims. Like, you're changing your arguments. Now you want to come in and ask for other things. So, okay, fine. We're going to have a hearing on this and brief it, write your motions, write your papers, submit them. I'll make a decision. So that hearing occurred not long ago, just a month ago, November 24th, 2025. They drag everybody in for a hearing. Now, at the hearing, after considerable sparring over petitioners' ability to sue the state, it's like, can the board even sue the state under this provision of the Constitution? And res judicata, meaning we've already litigated this. Like, you don't get to try again and again and again. You're precluded from suing again because we already solved this. Finally, they're all debating this. There was a breakthrough. Oh my goodness, amazing. So the state agreed that Georgia law applied to the subpoenas, and they said, oh, okay, well, I guess, yeah, this rule applies. So you can demand these things. So then we lost all of that debate over injunctions and declaratory relief and all of that. They're like, no, all right, the original, okay. So then he says we reverted back. So then we went back. Should we just quash the subpoenas again? Let's go back and have a more productive and simpler exploration of whether the subpoenas should be quashed from the election board. Judge McBurney says, dun, 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 they should not be quashed. They'll remain valid. Now, in the context of a motion to quash, writes the judge, the party that issued the subpoena, in this case, the election board, they bear the burden of proving that the subpoena is going to get information that is necessary. It's relevant. It's important. You need it. So the SEB has done that. The election board, writes the judge. Yeah, they did it. It's twin subpoenas. It sent two. Seek information that is directly relevant to their roles, to the board's roles, and their responsibilities. Now, that information may be a tad outdated from the prior election, and the basis for that request is somewhat politically motivated, But all the records that they seek are election records. And if any state agency is entitled to examine election records, it's them. It would be the SEB. The law is unequivocal. I don't like it, he says. It's probably politically motivated. Well, I mean, all election battles are going to be politically motivated because if you stole an election, then you have that seat. You have that political position of power. So yeah, it's a little bit motivated, yeah. And it's a tad outdated. Well, you guys didn't do a good job for the last 4 years. So now we got to go and figure it out. And he gives us a nice footnote here in footnote 5. They've done it. They've done everything. Now, petitioners also argue that the subpoenas should be quashed because they relate to what they claim is a closed investigation. So the Fannies and the Raffensperger, they say we've already dealt with this. Gosh, you're so annoying. 2020's so old. They say you can't subpoena this. Now, the court says, we reject this argument for 4 reasons. 4 idiots, 4 of them. First, on their face, there is nothing that links the subpoenas to any particular investigation, whether it's open or closed. So don't come back and say it's closed. Their subpoenas aren't related to something that is closed. They have a generic inquiry right in place right now that is looking into operations that the Fulton County Board of Elections did, and they're allowed to do that. So the idea that the Fulton County Board is like done or closed or something and you can't review what they did is not valid. They're allowed to look in there, and so they can. Second, whether it's plausible or not, whether you believe them or not, or they can do this or not, the board articulated an interest in learning from the mistakes of the 2020 election to prepare for future elections. They're allowed to do that. That's what the board is set up for. And so this judge is doing a good job, even though you can tell he disagrees with all of this. He's like, they have the right to do it. I can't substitute my judgment for theirs. I don't think that they need the records. You can tell it's old. It's already been recounted. It's already been audited. So I don't think that they should, but they can. That's all I'm here to do. Now, clearly, that is within the board's purview, regardless of one's perspective on whether the 2020 vote count was particularly error-riddled in Fulton County, where they had the water main break at State Farm Arena, and all of the anchors were like, oh no, there's a water main break? What does this mean? Well, I don't know what this means. I'm going to think about it. And they just sat around and paused the counting of the votes until they got the outcome that they wanted. So he says they're allowed to do this. And 3, it is not plain from the limited record that their investigation, the board's investigation into Fulton County and their election management was in fact closed. While 2 board members bandied about the Latin term res judicata, he's like, okay, great. You can say some legal phrases. You're so sophisticated. Wow. Res judicata, which is a matter judge, is already closed. You've already resolved it. So it's like, and this can also happen like if you file one claim, let's say you sue in this state or this city, lose. I hate that ruling. I lost. You go over here, you try to sue again. If it's the same issues, the same parties, the same things, they'll just say, sorry, you're precluded from suing again. You've already tried and lost. You can't have multiple cracks at the apple trying to get inconsistent verdicts or rulings. Now, while 2 board members threw this around, you saw like Fannie's BFFs were like, it's res judicata. To staunch the flow of demands of data, it's not clear that the matter has ever been completed. It's not closed. They're still looking into this. And so you can't say that they can't access that. He says there was a, quote, a judgment, he puts it in quotes, in the form of a June 14, 2024 letter of reprimand from the Board of Elections. But that letter required as part of the resolution of the investigation that the Secretary of State and the others enter into a settlement, basically, an MOU, a memorandum of understanding that would place an outside monitor in Fulton to ensure compliance during future elections. But that was not ever entered. There was no memorandum that was ever entered. So it's like there was a final letter that said, okay, we'll close this thing up if you appoint a monitor. They never appointed a monitor. So the matter is unresolved, and thus it's still open. So finally, says this judge, on the most practical level, there is nothing preventing a majority of this board of elections from simply opening a new investigation or an inquiry that would entitle the board to obtain all of the information from your subpoenas. So they can get it. So rather than kick this already heavily dented 2020 election records can, even further down the road, it is far more efficient and consistent with fundamental principles of transparency and public access to just address this request here and now. Amazing. So, 4 reasons they lose. The board has clear power to go get these things, and they've been fighting for years to stop it. So, they can examine it. They have the power to do it. But relevance does not end the inquiry here. Okay, petitioners also say that the subpoenas are unreasonable and oppressive. Everything is oppressive for Fannie and Brad. They're so troubled and hurt and harmed by everybody, they can't even do their jobs. They say, what? That is their burden to prove. Case law says as much. And here they have at least preliminarily shown some of this. They say, well, it's going to cost us a lot of money. It's oppressive for us. It's going to cost nearly $400,000. Oh, you know who might have $400,000 in a bank account somewhere? Nathan Wade, who got paid 700 G's. Although I think he probably spent most of that already on his cruises and his new car and his new outfits. But even if petitioners are off by an order of magnitude, the county should not bear that cost. And pursuant to its broad discretion covering discovery matters, the court intends to require the petitioners to comply with the subpoenas, but it also is going to make the board pay for what it wants. So Fulton doesn't have to pay for all the copying and pasting and printing, but now they can get the files as long as the election board will pay for it. So accordingly, Fannie, Raffensperger, Fulton, the state, you are hereby directed to file with this court no later than January 7th, 2026. Coming soon. We want an itemized breakdown for complying with each of these 18 requests. How much is it going to cost? 18 of them. Now, the subpoenas reference 12 paragraphs of requests, but a simple count and recount reveals that there are 18 requests. Perhaps everyone needs a counting monitor. Oh, dang, Judge. That's a little snark in there. He's saying even the election board can't count their own requests. So Georgia just has a counting problem. Everybody's there is like bad with numbers, which I can relate to because I can't do anything with numbers. But yeah, okay, so nobody can count in Georgia except this judge, evidently. So he says, now you want 18 different requests. I want to know how much each one costs. Assuming these individualized calculations are possible, if certain requests must be grouped together because the cost to produce those materials is linked, then there doesn't need to be a full menu of 18 different cost line items, but I want to know the total costs. Then the respondent will have 1 week to file a challenge to the cost estimate, and the challenge will trigger the convening of an evidentiary hearing just on the costs alone. Then after that, the board will be free to press its demand for some, all, or none of the 18 items, but they got to pay for it when they request it. So we'll see how much money the board has, right? And you're going to see a tension here. Like maybe the practical considerations are enough to prevent the disclosure of some of the files. Like what is the state election board's budget? I don't know. Maybe they have like $100,000 to their name. They can't literally pay for all of it. Judge is ordering them to pay for it. So Fannie, Fulton, Brad, all of them are going to come back down and they're going to say, oh, it's like $1 billion, like $1 billion. Like, no, it costs so much. We can't possibly produce those to you unless you can come up with all this money. And then the judge will say, it doesn't cost that much, Big Fannie, okay? Sell your $12,000 handbag and you can help fund some of this or whatever. So the battle will continue, but this is right, okay? The board has the power. The judge doesn't like that the board has the power, but the legislature in Georgia said they have the power and so they can go do this. Now, if you had this in front of Judge Amir Ali or Judge William Alsup or Judge Gia Cobb or something from DC, they would say, oh my gosh, this is a due process. This is undermining American democracy. This is a violation of some presumption of whatever. And they would prevent the subpoenas from having any effect using due process or some constitutional prerogative. But this judge, to his credit, as begrudging as he is, he's a character, man. This guy, McBurney, we've seen him before. Listen, he's kind of like on the bench, like, ugh, so annoyed with everything. And you can understand that because he's a judge in Fulton friggin' County. How could you even stand it? But he's there and he issued a nice order. Fannie, Fulton, Brad, the rest of them freaked out. So they're going to come back down. Their strategy will be, no, millions, billions of dollars so that we can't disclose anything because there's just not enough money. But this comes in the follow-up to this clip, and we covered this story extensively last week, but here is the video, which we did not play. And the video explains that there was a meeting back on 12/9, and this has now been posted over on YouTube via Julie Allen. Thank you, Julie, for this. But here's the board that we were just talking about, and they're asking questions about the processing of the election. And here is this woman admitting that under Georgia law, there are statutes, then there are rules that interpret the statutes, and the rules will explain how you perform the election. And if you're not following the rules, if you're not certifying that the votes are valid, it's no different in my mind than a DUI case. What if you're in a DUI case and you can't validate that the blood results that they're testing and saying are your results are actually your results? You can't validate it because the cop didn't sign the chain of custody log. Okay, that's your case. One criminal case, one guy with a DUI driving around, which I don't condone DUIs, but they happen. And so if somebody's driving around, you get a DUI, it's one guy, one criminal case, all the things. Very important case. We want justice in our society. But if a chain of custody problem, meaning if the person who impounded, transported, tested the blood, if there's a problem with that from person A to point B to C to D, that blood results gets thrown out, debate arguably, okay, depending on your judge and prosecutor. But that blood result would be invalid. Its chain of custody is broken. You can't use it. You can't even incriminate that person for that. So how is an election for a state and arguably the presidency that dictates the entire future of the country, how come that chain of custody is not at least as sanctified as a criminal case? Okay, I personally care more about the future of America and who governs our country as president than some random dude's DUI. Yes, we want justice across the board, but if the criminal law is set up in one way and our election law is way below the standard of criminal law, such that a broken chain of custody, people not following the rules to the tune of 315,000 votes, if that is still considered to be, well, that's close enough, it's way below our criminal standard, and it shouldn't be. We should demand excellence in our elections and valid chains of custody. But they don't have them here, according to this woman, in front of the state election board. Here's this testimony that went down.
Next case, Fulton County tabulation issue 2022-015. Fulton County is the respondent. Is there a representative of Fulton County? Yes. Afternoon.
This is my good afternoon for the next 10 or 15 cases.
Yeah. Sticking with you here.
I've not seen the tapes myself, but we do not dispute that the tapes were not signed. It was a violation of the rule. Since 2020, again, we have new leadership and a new building and a new board and new standard operating procedures. And since then, the training has been enhanced. The poll watchers are trained specifically. They've got to sign the tapes in the morning and they've got to sign the tapes when they're run at the end of the day. When the tapes come back to the hub for, with all the documentation, they are checked again. And if somebody forgot to sign a tape, then Fulton initiates an investigation. But we don't dispute the allegation from the 2020 election.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that.
And the complainant is here. Would the complainant like to speak?
Yes. It's on the desk, the red button.
Good grief, I'm going to have to sit down. All right, you got some exhibits I'm giving to you up there. Good afternoon, board members. My name is David Cross. I filed this complaint in March of 2022 with the State Election Board, documenting systemic violations of Georgia law in Fulton County's handling of advanced voting in 2020. Our group paid Fulton County $15,800 in an open records request, where the county turned over 77 megabytes of records, every tabulator tape representing 315,000 votes. The state election rules are crystal clear. On page 2, you'll see the Georgia Rule 183-1-12.112 or .12 requires every Dominion tabulator to print exactly 3 tapes at the close of each advanced voting day. All 3 tapes must be witnessed and signed by 3 poll workers, or their reason for refusal must be noted. 1 signed tape goes on the polling place door. The second goes on goes in a sealed envelope with a memory card, and the third goes in an envelope with a polling place recap form. These signed tapes are the sole legal certification that the reported totals are authentic.
Wow.
Fulton County produced 0 signed tabulator tapes in early voting, as you just heard. Not 1 for early voting. Every signature block is blank. 10 of these unsigned tabulator tapes are from Mr. Rossi and Mr. Moncala's SEB 2022-025 case on page 3. We found identical protective counters across several different polling places, polls that were opened 8 days late, polls closed at impossibly late hours like 2:09 a.m. in the morning, and poll closing times that do not match the tapes on pages 4 and 5. On pages 6, 7, 11, and 12, we found duplicated scanner serial numbers where the memory devices were removed from one scanner and printed on an alternate scanner.
Crazy.
These are not clerical errors. They are catastrophic breaks in chain of custody and
Fraud.
certification.
Yeah, fraud. So pausing and going back to your DUI example, it's like they take a blood sample out of your body. What they're supposed to do is seal it, make sure that it's properly labeled, put it in a little sleeve, seal that, make sure it's all properly, they write your name on it, it's all body cammed up. This is your sample. Then when they give it to somebody else, it goes from person A to person B. Person A signs it. I gave it to person B takes it, signs it. I got this sample. Then transports it, drops it into evidence, signs it, puts it into evidence. Now, if you were at a criminal trial being charged for DUI, and somebody came out and like, this is your sample. And you said, well, how can you prove it's my sample? Do you have my name written on there? Did the cop put a label on there? No, not really. It's just kind of one sample we just picked out of a bucket somewhere because nobody validated anything. Nobody signed off on it. No chain of custody. It's like, it would be like a cop just took your sample, just threw it into a refrigerator with 1,000 other samples, no label, nothing, and then pulled one out and said, this is yours. The chain of custody is broken. You can't use that sample. Nobody can validate where it came from. Nobody can validate that it's your sample, it's your vote, or that it's your sample and nobody manipulated it, that nobody actually started testing a sample that already had alcohol in it, or when the vial came in and they were extracting blood into the vial, it was already filled with some alcohol or something because it wasn't reset at a baseline. You're not starting from zeros. Same thing is happening here. In a DUI case, defense attorneys would have a field day with any of this stuff. Your sample would be thrown out. You would be acquitted. So why are those same protections not in place for elections?
Because no tape was ever legally certified, Fulton County had no lawful authority to certify its advanced voting results to the Secretary of State. Yet it did. The Secretary Raffensperger accepted and folded those uncertified numbers into Georgia's official total
Safe and
without
secure.
questioning them.
Safe and secure, baby.
This is not partisan. This is statutory. This is the law. When the law demands 3 signatures on tabulator tapes and the county fails to follow the rules, those 315,000 votes are, by definition, uncertified.
Busted.
Fulton County's
Now they will turn around and say, well, the voters are still valid votes, and that we're not talking about signatures, like nobody's checking the signature on the votes. It's once they're put into the machines, you got to certify that the machine is based out, zeroed out at zeros when you start. All the votes go in. You reconfirm it at the end to say, we've been here this entire time. We've been monitoring this from beginning to end. I'm a trustworthy person. I'm certified under Georgia election law to operate these machines and be a poll worker, all the things. And I'm doing the job to make sure that the machines are counting correctly. And if you can't validate that, then it doesn't matter how many so-called real votes you put through the thing, because you're putting them through a sausage factory that is disgusting. It's not actually making sausages, it's rigging elections.
is deliberate or grossly negligent destruction of the audit trail for more than 315,000 votes is a national disgrace. The only honest remedy 5 years later is for the state election board to impose sanctions on Fulton County, have them publicly acknowledge their violations, and for the state to decertify Fulton County's 2020 advanced voting results. It's not to change who sits in the White House or what the score was, but instead to place an indelible and permanent asterisk on the record and finally force accountability. It is very clear from today's testimony that there are numerous technological issues plaguing Georgia voter systems that could be remedied by hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. Counted by human beings, not computers. I still have dozens of serious complaints in these folders here that have not yet seen the light of day, and Georgians still have no answers to the basic questions, which is, why has the Secretary of State not acted? Why has the Attorney General stalled for years?
Because they're complicit.
Why has no one been held accountable? And when will Governor Kemp finally step up and lead on securing Georgia's elections?
Yeah, Governor.
Until those questions are answered and these violations are officially recognized, trust in our elections will remain broken. In closing, I respectfully request that you refer this matter to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice, and I believe the maximum civil penalty is $5,000 per unsigned tabulator tape violation, assessed after notice and a hearing under Georgia Administrative Procedures Act. These penalties can be enforced by the Attorney General and Superior Court, along with orders for compliance, restitution, reprimands, training, and investigative cost. There are 134 unsigned tabulator tapes.
Crazy.
That would be a fine of $670,000.
It's a good start.
I know it's a lot of money, but apparently it doesn't hurt enough for Fulton County to follow the rules. Thank you, and I'll take your questions.
Nice. All right, so that dude dropping knowledge for all of us and fighting hard in Georgia. We appreciate it. I think his name is David Cross is what he said. And responding to the admission that they didn't sign the tapes. And Georgia law requires them to do that. And Raffensperger and the rest of the fannies out there back during 2020, nobody ever mentioned that, huh? They just said, no, safest, most secure election in American history. No evidence of widespread voter fraud. 315,000 votes were not properly confirmed and validated. That's a big problem. The margin of error was about 12,000 votes, 11,700, whatever. Then that's why they had the water main break in State Farm. Like, oh, just keep counting votes. So now those records need to be delivered. We're going to have a hearing on that. Sounds like we're going to have an accounting of how much the whole thing is going to cost, according to Judge McBurney. And that hearing or that deadline is going to be scheduled for January 7th. So coming up soon. And of course, we're going to keep our eye on it. But Kevin Moncla is another gentleman who's working hard on this. We read some of his work last week in some of his filings. He says, Merry Christmas, baby. What a glorious decision this is. McBurney just denied Fulton County. We're going to get our hands on some of these records. And he's tagging everybody who was heavily involved in this case out there in Georgia. So shout out to Kevin Moncla and a victory there. Now, we also see that the DOJ is suing to get their hands on more records from 2020. And the DOJ, courtesy of Harmeet Dillon, came in and sued this guy called Shay Alexander. He is the clerk out there in Georgia. And there have been a bunch of filings back and forth on this. Wanted to see if there was anything new. Last we left off on this case, we were identifying the Black Voters Matter, that group, and the unions who were all coming in here back on the 16th. They said, we want to intervene on this case. DOJ cannot have these files. They cannot see any of these things because Black Voters Matter. And if you look at their ballots, apparently they say Black voters won't matter. And so that's going to be a big problem for them. So they sued, or they're moving to intervene rather, to get in this lawsuit to say everything's racist and bigoted and it's going to chill votes and all the things. And we were waiting for the DOJ to respond to this and see what their position would be on it. You can see a bunch of the Black Voters Matter lawyers are now coming in. Let's see who some of these people are. Brandon Lewiston, Marcos Mosine McQueen. Marcos McQueen in the House coming in for black voters. We got Uzoma Inquanta coming in, black voters matter. Inquanta's there again, another one from Lewiston. McQueen's in the House. And they're all getting permission to appear. And the DOJ responded. So the DOJ came out and they said, you know what? If the black voters matter want to get in here, no problem. We're happy to allow it. On December 19th, Black Voters Matter Fund and the unions filed their motion to intervene. And from Harmeet, the Civil Rights Division, they say we take no position on their motion to intervene. So if the black voters matter, they want to come in here and make their position heard about racism or whatever, they're free to do that. We take no position. Judge, do whatever you want. We don't care. So that came in from the DOJ. We'll see if the black voters matter and if they can be added to this case. But meanwhile, this was interesting. Brad Raffensperger also posted on X and then I think deleted his first post for whatever reason. Here's what he said in response to all of these allegations. Now they're admitting, oops, we don't have any signed tapes. Our problem here. That's in violation of the rules and the law. Here's what Brad had to say. He came out, he said, this is Secretary Raffensperger on alleged procedural errors in Fulton County and the 2020 election. Here's what Brad had to say. Georgia has the most secure elections in the country. And voters were verified with voter ID and lawfully cast their ballots. You know, I'm sure they counted. They cast their ballots. A clerical error at the end of the day does not erase valid legal votes. It's not a clerical error, okay? Somebody didn't like sign the wrong date or sign in the wrong form or like sign on the wrong line. They didn't sign it at all for over 250,000 votes. Brad, say the most secure elections? You can't even validate your chain of custody. Do you know what the signatures are for? Security. To make sure that nobody's coming in there and mucking up the process. It goes from A to B to B to C to C to D. You don't want it to go from A to unnamed, anomalous individual that nobody can identify who then perverts the results and then gives it to B. That's why you have a chain of custody in the first place. So you cannot say it is secure if you can't even validate the chain. It's insane. And he should be impeached and maybe prosecuted for covering up this entire scam. So that's Raffensperger. That's all you get. One sentence from one of the most corrupt and probably dumbest people in the country. That is for sure. Wouldn't argue with him on that. The dumbest secretary. Well, actually, he's in the running. He's got Griswold. He's got Benson. He's got a lot of them. So he's got his work cut out for him. So that's Raffensperger. But then Senator Greg Dazol also dropped this one. Remember, Dazol was the Georgia senator, state senator, who was front and center asking Fannie questions when she was saying, I have a white CFO. So you don't think I stole because a white lady stamped off on it. That was Fannie. So then Senator Dazol came out. He said over the weekend, Fannie Willis also got regular updates tracking the dollar value of her media coverage during the Trump prosecution, which we saw during her testimony. Year one alone topped $600 million, and taxpayers paid for that. So Fannie was installed in a government position, used that government position to attack her political opponents, generated $600 million in 1 year of earned media. In other words, if Trump needed to respond to that, he would have to come up with $600 million out of his pocket just to push back on the media onslaught that was coming out of Fannie's noxious odor. Look how much money that is. That was one case. Then multiply that times E. Jean Carroll, the vagina cat, blue-haired, blue tree painting psycho out of Bergdorf's, her lawsuit, Alvin Bragg, the business fraud case out of New York. We had the Georgia docs prosecution, the J6 prosecution, the ballot removals in Colorado. Trump was getting hit with literally billions of dollars of media attacks that were all enabled by the government. We're paying for that. And we're donating to Trump so that he can then push back against that. So we're getting screwed on both ways. And all of that opportunity cost could have been used to win the election, which of course he did anyways. So we paid for that. Why does a prosecutor enforcing the law need to monitor her media value? Because Fanny is the biggest Fanny in Georgia. That's why we call her that, is because from day one, she was out with her books on with Rachel Maddow. She was trying to become a rapper. That's why she wears her polar bear outfit as she waddles into court or Congress. Now, here is what they published. So media during the term Fannie Willis for a year, 33 billion audience impressions. As much as they wanted Trump in prison, this was also part of a media attack. Publicity value, $637 million. It is so corrupt. Individual story mentions 24,000. And still, nobody likes Fannie Willis other than Fannie Willis and a couple people in Fulton County. I think everybody else, even lefties who are lawyers, watched what she did and they all just went, oh my gosh, this is our people. These are our people. This is our team. It's not good for them. So here is Garland Favorito. He was on with Steve Bannon this morning, and he has been on this for a long time. He is over with the trusted election results of voters organized, the VOTE, Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results in Georgia, Voter. So here is what Garland Favorito says. He's been working on this for a long time out there in Fannyland.
15, the tabulator tapes were missing or unsigned for almost all of the early voting ballots that were cast, which was a total of 315,000 ballots. So they were able to get a referral to the Attorney General, criminal referral over this matter, and a recommendation of $5,000 per missing tabulator tape, 148 missing tabulator tapes. Plus, they're missing the zero tape. So the total potential fine of that would be $1.4 million, if my math is correct. That is what Fulton County is now facing. And Steve, that is only the tip of the iceberg in Fulton County. There's many, many more investigations and things that are going to come. Also, we know that 1.7 million original ballot images were destroyed statewide in that 2020 election. They should have been preserved for 2 years. That is another big thing. But the thing that's helped us so much is that the state election board has been reconfigured to have a majority of members who really care about election integrity. And they are real heroes and heroines, and they are under tremendous pressure. The media is lying about them almost on a daily or weekly basis. But hats off to them for standing strong and making this referral. But I would predict that it's just one of many, many to come. I think you're seeing the dam finally break here in Georgia after 5 years.
Wow, it's amazing. And Fanny, I don't think helped with that. When she came out and she was saying, I'm not answering your questions. I don't trust you. You're running for office, all the things, as though Fanny's not running for office. It does feel like we're getting some good momentum here, especially when we look back and we see that Judge McBurney also said the board has the power to get these records, to get these files. The next step will be, how much does it all cost? Where will the funds come from? Can they actually get their hands on these records and on these files, and what will they show? Now, I think this is just the beginning of what I hope is a full nationwide series of reforms, because the same things were happening in Arizona. We didn't have a water main break, but when Kari Lake was running, remember how all of a sudden our machines just stopped working on election day? Oh no, it was like a paper sizing misprint problem. And so they wouldn't accept the day of election in-person votes, which all would be way heavily weighted in favor of Kari Lake. Remember that? And we went through all of the spreadsheets and we saw what locations had the longest waits, and they were all in very red parts of the Phoenix metro area. Very interesting. And we had Bill Gates, onesie, twosie Bill Gates. Hey, Bill, what happened with we're just crossing the I's, dotting the T's, couple onesie, twosies to fix on over here in our election system. We're like, Bill, shut up. We don't talk like that here. But he didn't care. And of course, they just rammed the results through. We had recount, or we had long extended counts as they were just perverting the numbers. And then they send all of our votes to some third-party entity called Runbeck, and then Runbeck counts them in their own warehouse. Nobody knows what the hell's going on over there. Can we see the cameras? No. Can we subpoena records? No. They're third parties. Take it up with your state. And across the board, we saw the same thing happen with Jenna Griswold in Michigan, with Jocelyn Benson. Rigging across the board. So shout out to Fulton County, the election board, or the state election board here. We are happy that they have been like a dog with a bone, man, not letting this one go. Now they've got a nice order from the judge. Files should be delivered starting soon. We'll have some deadlines coming up next year in January. We're going to keep our eye on this one, my friends. Fannie and Brad and the rest of them now under more scrutiny than ever. We're excited to see where it leads. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as this coverage continues. All right, now, my friends, that was a good segment. Happy to hear about all those updates. Now, let's turn our attention to some Maxwell stuff. Oh, gosh. All right, this one's gross. But we're going to sanitize it as best we can because it's Christmas season. I don't know why we're having to read some of this stuff here, but it came out and we've been waiting for this one. So we'll see what is inside, but let's get to it right now. Maxwell files now released. This is an indictment that came out of the Southern District of New York that came from the grand jury proceedings. The transcript now available for us, having been unsealed pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And we'll go through it. It's 119 pages that brought in new charges against Ghislaine when she was being prosecuted. But it's interesting because they bring in a summary witness to basically walk us through the testimony that occurred during a prior indictment and in prior cases. And so we get a nice summary of all of the evidence kind of mashed into one conversation for the grand jurors. Now, the reason why I think that this indictment, superseding indictment rather, is important is because it articulates and illustrates for us just how limited this entire investigation was. They were focused on Epstein. They were focused on Maxwell. All of the other third parties, anybody to whom Epstein was trafficking these people, these women, were all kind of left out of the investigation, of course, for good reason, because James Comey's daughter, called Maureen Comey, was the prosecutor here and was just acting as a mop-up cleanup crew operation, which is exactly what they did. And so a couple new interesting documents have dropped. One question that we've asked a lot about here is about complaints from the victims to the FBI and what the FBI did with the complaints and how it proceeded and moved forward. And this one was also just newly unsealed. You see, came out a long time ago and was actually drafted originally back sometime, I think. Well, do we not have a date on this? Yes, here we do. September 3rd, 1996. Okay, this is how old this complaint is. So this came in from somebody to the FBI, and FBI Miami got this back in 1996. Okay, so this was going on forever. Totally disgusting. There's the date right there, September 3rd, 1996. And here was just one complaint that made its way through the FBI about Epstein. Coming out of New York City, unclassified, not sensitive, attention to some special agent over here. Here's the nature of the complaint. Subject's name and alias, Jeffrey. What's the character of the case? CP. Not good. This is a telephonic complaint, and here's what went down. Now, the complainant stated that she is a professional artist, so stated that she is a professional artist, and she took pictures of her sisters, 12 and 16 years, for her own personal artwork. Then Jeffrey came in. He stole the photos and the negatives and is believed to have sold the pictures to potential buyers. Epstein at one time requested so-and-so, this person, to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. Epstein is now threatening her that if she tells anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down. FBI got that complaint back in 1996. Okay, so started a long time ago. And now we're seeing vindication. Okay, this, I believe, is the Farmer family. So Maria and Annie Farmer are two people who, of all the victims and the witnesses out, have been probably the most courageous, using their real names, actually submitting complaints, showing us a record of their complaints. And so we appreciate the fact that they're now being vindicated, saying, yeah, we complained back in 1996 about this. And the FBI all the way back then didn't do anything about it. So now we fast forward. Now we're in March 29, 2021. And we've got Ghislaine being prosecuted. We have 2 U.S. attorneys in the house, so-and-so and so-and-so. Grand jury reporter is also there. And this is from the grand jury presentation. You can see we normally don't see these documents ever, but they're being unsealed because of Maxwell and Epstein. And the grand jury record is now available for us to read to see exactly what went down when Maureen Comey was presenting the case. Here's how it happened. Grand jury is in session. Prosecutors are there. They call in their first witness. Person is sworn in. Testimony begins by Miss Somebody, probably Comey. If I had to guess, it's by Maureen Comey. Good morning, Mr. Witness, who's going to be a police officer. Good morning. Would you please state your name for the record? I'm Detective so-and-so. Detective, where do you work? New York City Police Department. All right, I'm going to ask you to please keep your voice up. Talk like you got a pair, all right? And speak slowly. Yeah, all right. So Miss Comey says, all right, by someone, and you can pull the microphone towards you so everyone can hear. It's a big room, okay? You said, thank you. Meek little fella. New York City Police Department, he says, what is your title? Detective. How long you been there? 15 years. You part of a federal task force right now? Yeah. Which one? Child exploitation, human trafficking with the FBI. What's your title on the task force? I'm a task force officer. How long you been there with the FBI? Since about 2017. What are your duties? Well, we go after trafficking, CP, enticement, all the things. And over the last 3 years, have you been looking into Epstein and Maxwell? Yes. During your investigation, have you spoken with other people? Yes. Have you reviewed reports or other transcripts in this court or other grand jury proceedings? So can you talk about what happened in another proceeding? Yes. Will your testimony today be based on those? Yes. Comey explains to the grand jurors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. Some of the testimony you're going to hear today from this detective on the stand is going to include hearsay. Okay, that means he's not going to testify only from his personal observations about what he saw. He's going to tell you what other people told him. Now, hearsay evidence, she says to the jurors, like they know, as you know, is admissible and proper in these proceedings. Okay, this is not a guilty proceeding. We only need probable cause. And so hearsay is allowed. And he's going to talk about what other people told him, not exactly what he saw. If you have any questions about this, if you want to see the actual witness who said the thing, let me know. Comey says, I'll do my best efforts to bring those to you. Jurors, any questions? No. All right. Hey, Detective so-and-so. Now, over the course of your investigation, has another member of the FBI task force testified before a grand jury in another case or this case? Yes. Now, I want you to pick up Exhibit 3. You recognize that? Yeah. What is it? That is a transcript of another FBI special agent before a different grand jury in June 2020. Okay, so we're adding another charge. It's a superseding indictment, so it's creating a new indictment, but it's basically the old indictment plus a little bit more. So they're bringing this guy to read in what happened at the last setting rather than representing everything at the last setting. Do you recognize this? Yes. All right. I want to read a back portion of this transcript. We're just going to do a little role play here, Comey. I'm going to read the questions. You read the testimony of the other guy. Sound good? We're going to do like a little role play here. He's like, yeah, sounds great. Juror's like, oh, weird. All right. Where do you work? FBI. What's your title? Special agent. He's not. He's the New York cop, but he's reading for the FBI. How long have you worked as a special agent? 3 years. Where are you currently assigned? Children's Squad. What are your duties? We investigate. All right, stop there. Now let's go to page 4. Have you participated in an investigation of Maxwell? Again, he kind of did, but he's reading for the FBI agent. Yes, I have. Have you spoken with people about this? Yes. Have you reviewed their reports? Yes. Is your testimony today based on their statements? Yes. Now, stepping out of the readback, says Comey. Now, at this point, The prosecutor, back during this original grand jury, provided the same hearsay instruction. And so now we're going to fast forward. Let's go to page 5. Okay, we've placed on the desk a PowerPoint. Special agent, do you recognize this? Yeah. What is it? It's a PowerPoint that I'm going to testify from today. Did you prepare this? Yes. Okay, let's look at the slides. Now, based on your participation, have Maxwell and Epstein been photographed together over the years? Yeah. And where is Maxwell from? Well, she was born in France, grew up in the UK, educated at Oxford, comes from a wealthy family. Is she a citizen of France, UK, and the US? Yeah. How old is she currently, back in 21? She's 58. Has the FBI investigated Maxwell and Epstein and their conduct with minors during the 90s? Yeah. And what have you learned about their relationship? Well, they had a romantic relationship. She worked for him. She managed his homes. She hired, she fired. Was she one of his close associates? Yes. And during the course of this investigation, did you learn about his properties? Yes, I did. Where were they? New York, Palm Beach, New Mexico. Does this slide accurately represent the properties? Yeah, it does. This one is in New York. It's huge. 7-story home, largest residence in Manhattan. And in that New York place, was there a massage room? Yes, it did. There was one in there. All right, we'll talk more about that later. Did he have a place in Florida? Yes, waterfront estate. How about this one in New Mexico? Yep, Zorro Ranch. Does this slide accurately depict that property? Yeah. Did he have a house employee? Yeah. Redacted. What was his name? What was his job? Well, he just ran the house. He made sure it ran like a 5-star hotel. Did you interview this person? Yeah. How many times? Twice. And you got info from him? Yes, we do. Now, was it a few years before Epstein began dating Maxwell after this person started working there? All right, we're going to jump around, he says. Is anybody having a hard time hearing this guy? Grand jurors say, yeah, we can't hear this dude. So she's like, again, detective, speak up like you've got some cojones, okay? You're testifying. Keep your voice up. You sound pathetic. Shout into the microphone. Pull it towards your mouth. Gosh, they're all annoyed. Okay, now I'm going to ask you another question, detective. From what so-and-so and so-and-so told you, how did work change once Maxwell came on the scene? Well, soon as she came on, things got a lot more secretive. She says, again, will you put the freaking microphone under your mouth, okay? No one can hear you. You talked about some of the rules that were placed. And yeah, what were the new rules? Well, Maxwell came in and said, don't make eye contact with Epstein. All right, let's shift gears, he says. And we're going to fast forward. Do you know this person named this name? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to refer to her as this. Is that okay? Yeah. How many times have you interviewed her? 5. And if you could page through these slides. Did she take these photographs? Yeah. And it looks like they took these photographs from someone 13 to age 17. Yeah, it does. Does it look like these photographs? It looks like this person's date of birth is this. Yeah. Are these photographs of this person? Yeah. Turn the page. Are these photographs of this person? Yeah. How old is this person? 14. Where was she living? With her mothers and siblings. And what did her father do before he passed away? What was his profession? He did this and this and this. And was this person also involved in that? Yeah, she was. Were her siblings? Yes. What kind of things were they involved in? Singing. She was a singer. Like what? Like an opera. So in the summer of 94, how old was she? 13, going on 14. You testified earlier that her birthday was so-and-so. Did she turn 14 in that year? Yes. Then that summer, where did she go? Interlochen Center for the Arts. Oh, is that located in Michigan? Yeah. And did Jeffrey and Ghislaine go there to that art camp? Yeah. Did she meet them at the art camp? Yes. What did she tell you about that? Well, she said that she was sitting at a picnic table with friends when Epstein and Maxwell walked by to this like summer art camp for kids. They stopped by to talk to her, engaged in conversation. They said, do you like your classes, young lady? During that conversation, she found out that she was also from Palm Beach. And they said, oh, we're giving scholarships to people. You look nice. How did they leave the conversation? Well, they asked for her phone number. Now, as part of that investigation, did you gather records to corroborate that? Yes. What are we looking at on this slide? Well, this slide shows some of the individuals who were there. On here is this person and this person and this person. And did you investigate what they did there? What was your understanding of Epstein's relationship with this summer camp? Well, my understanding was that he was a donor to the school. Did he make substantial donos? Yes. Did he donate a lodge there? Yes. Did he have a long-standing relationship as a donor there? Yeah. Is this a letter from the camp to Epstein? Yeah. Do they thank him for a donation? Yes. Does it invite Epstein to go visit in 1994? Amazing. So these like art student camp counselors are like, wow, let's bring him here to meet the kids. Yes. Did he have a private jet back in 94? Yes. Did you get the flight logs? Yes. Do those logs include passenger list? Yes. Turning to the next slide. Is this a page of the flight logs? And on this excerpt where the red arrow is, does it show an entry to an airport called TBC? Yes, it does. How far is that from the camp? About 25 minutes. Who came there that day? Jeffrey did. And are those Ghislaine's initials? Yes. So she was also there at this time? Yes. Okay, let's turn to the next slide. Now, we were talking a few minutes ago about Maxwell and Epstein at a summer camp. Do you know, did they have any contact? Did this girl explain to you whether or not they had contact back at Palm Beach? Yes, they did. So they picked her up from the summer camp. What happened next? Well, she was invited to his house, Epstein. So her and her mother went to Epstein's house to visit. What did this girl tell you about that visit to Epstein's house with her mother? Well, can you rephrase that? Yeah, with her mother. What did they say happened there at the house? They had tea. Who was there when they had tea at the house? Epstein and Maxwell. What did they talk about when they had tea? Well, you know, life, what she wanted to do. Did Jeffrey make any offers to her? He said, yeah, he gives scholarships and he likes to mentor people. And how did her mom react when Epstein said this? Mom, she was very happy for her daughter, oftentimes referred to Epstein as this girl's godfather. So after that occasion, when they went over to the house, did this girl subsequently begin regularly spending time with Maxwell and Epstein in Palm Beach? Yes. Did that start when she was 14? Yes. Did it continue until she was 17? Yes. And during those years, did she regularly go over there? Yep. And what happened during the summer of 1997 when she was 17, about to turn 18? She moved to New York City. Why? Well, she wanted to pursue a career in acting and modeling. Prosecutor Comey says, all right, we'll come back to that in a moment. But for now, I want to focus on the younger years when she was 14 to 17, when she would regularly go over there. Now, in the beginning, what kind of things would she do when she would go over there? Well, they'd hang out by the pool. He said they would take her to the movies. They would take her shopping. She described that behavior as grooming. Now, when you say grooming, did she explain what she meant by that? Well, that they were like building a relationship with her, taking her places. That's when grooming happens. Then things turn bad. Now, you said a moment ago that she said that it felt like grooming. Now, is that something that she realized when she was 14, or was that later? No, that's later. She didn't realize it at the time. Okay, so we'll talk about grooming in a moment. But you've got a lot of experience investigating the exploitation of minors, right? Yes. And so you were touching on this a moment ago. Can you explain what grooming is? We know what it is. Now, during these visits that you've been describing, did you see, or did she say that Epstein ever gave her anything? Yeah, she did. What was it? Cash. Sometimes he'd tell her to give the cash to her mom because he knew they needed it. He paid for her voice lessons as well. So pays off mom, so mom can send their 14-year-old to some random pervert in Palm Beach. Okay, now you were describing how something has characterized these visits now, right? But based on your conversations with her, did she feel that these were strange at all at the time? Yeah, she thought they were strange, but Maxwell normalized it. She was like a cool older sister, and she made comments like, oh, this is just what grown-ups do. You used the phrase cool older sister. Is that what she said? Or what? Yeah, those were her words. And at one point, Maxwell was topless by the pool. She saw that, right? Yeah, what'd she say? She said she was taken aback by that, but Maxwell said it was normal. And when they were together alone, did Epstein ask this girl what she wanted to do with her life? He did. What'd she say? She said she wanted to be an actress and a model. How did Epstein respond to this? He said, well, one of my best friends is the owner of Victoria's Secret. Told her she would have to take photographs and you have to get comfortable in your underwear. You can't be a prude. When asked what she meant by that, when she was asked what she meant by that, he pulled her into his lap and started indulging himself. What was her reaction? She felt paralyzed. She froze. Now, after this, did her encounters then become sexual? Yes. Over time, did that escalate? It did. What happened? All sorts of disgusting things. Did she explain to you what her memories like that were? Yes. What did she say about it? She said it happens so often, it all kind of runs together. It's hard to separate out some of the instances of abuse. So you were describing how this girl explained to you how the abuse began. Was that in the first year? Yes. Started with massages? Yes. Were there other women there? Yes. Usually they were there in their underwear, massaging and the things. Then he would turn over and horrific things. So in the beginning, when blank was approximately 14 or 15, would she just massage the feet? Yeah. And over time, things escalated and it was acting like it was all very casual. Did that make her feel more comfortable with what was happening? Yeah, because everybody else was very comfortable. Were they nude? Yes. Was there touching? Yes. Did it include other touching? Yes, it did. Did she remember Epstein buying her anything? She recalled them buying like white cotton underwear, like little girls' underwear. Oh, gosh. They flew commercially. She was abused in multiple properties. They would schedule her flights. They traveled to New Mexico. They had a driver. Now, this is a slide. Is this an excerpt from some of the records? What does this say? This is a flight record. And it shows flights to Teterboro Airport. It's got a bunch of names on there. Who was on the flight? Yeah, next slide. This one's going to New Mexico. Yep. So based on your knowledge of this girl would have been 16 on this flight. Yep. And this record, here's a 1998 flight. What is this? Another flight. It's got all these passengers listed on there. Based on your knowledge of this person on this birthday, this person would have been 17 at the time. Is that right? Yep. So am I correct that you testified earlier that sometimes they traveled on commercial airlines? Yep, it is. And sometimes they just note the gender of the passenger. So this one was just female. All right, let's look at this flight log from 1995. This says 2 females, right? Yep. And you testified that this girl sometimes flew on commercial airlines as well. Did you get those records? We tried, but we can't. Why not? Airlines don't keep records that old. Does this girl recall also being sexualized? Yes. During the beginning, when she was 14, she was spending time with Maxwell and Epstein. Also talked to her about her life. So kind of the same pattern. Did they encourage her to also accept help? Yep. Did he pay for her rent? Yep. Trafficked her around. Townhouse, LA, career in acting, same thing. So there were, I think, 4 victims in total in the Maxwell case. So they're just walking through the same pattern for all of the victims. Did you also have massage tables and other toys? Any photographs during your interviews? What did she say? She said, I thought that they loved me. Have you talked with her now? How does she feel about it now? She's upset. She recognizes this now. She knows it affected her life. She struggled through adulthood. I interviewed her last fall. They were in the Palm Beach house together. Epstein was helping her. That's another victim. So switching gears, I want to talk about a different aspect of your interviews. Based on what he was told about job duties, talking about cleaning the massage rooms, don't need to read any of that. There was a pilot. Just to be clear, is your testimony that the pilot didn't remember specific flights? Yeah. And did he remember this girl specifically as a person who traveled? Yes. Did you discuss with the pilot a person named this? Yes. Did he have a specific memory? No. Now, earlier we were looking for the summer camp attendance records. You noticed some of the names were in that camp. Did you interview her? Yeah. Did he tell you that he remembered this? Yeah. Yep, he remembered everything. Did he remember telling him that when they were in high school, describing the townhouse? Now, based on all of this, Did he tell you whether he knew back then that there was abuse? He said he did not know back then. Okay, so some summer camp counselor. Weird people here, very nice to our students, giving everybody scholarships. Yeah. Now, during the course of this investigation, did you interview this person? Yeah. This girl. How many times? Twice. High school, again, low date of birth, 16. Also living with her mother, older sister. Older sister worked for Epstein. This might be the farmers. Did there come a time in approximately 1995 about traveling there and meeting Epstein? Yes. So they did fly on a commercial airline. They did fly out there. What was her first impression of him? She was very impressed by him. He said, she's going to help me with college. Then they stayed at his townhouse. During that trip, they took her to the movies. What happened at the movies? He rubbed her arm. Oh, gosh. Everyone acknowledged she's uncomfortable, but Epstein kept contacting her, invited her to a weekend at his ranch in New Mexico. She was 16 at the time. Maxwell was going to be there. And up until that point, she had not met Maxwell. Her sister talked highly of Maxwell, so Maxwell is grooming her, brings her out there, says, we're going to give you all this money for college and things. Maxwell told her to give him a foot massage, then showed him how to do it. We heard all this testimony at trial. Maxwell also asked if she ever had a massage, and then Maxwell gave her a massage, and they're all just rubbing each other. Disgusting, disgusting. What happened after she was introduced? Maxwell immediately took an interest in her. They went over to London together. She was 17, introduced another one to Epstein. Keep talking her up, taking off robes, all the things. Epstein's standing there naked. Oh, gosh. All right, so you get the point. So all the victims, we got more genital conversation. We're fast forwarding through all this. Were they working with other girls, saying, yeah, do you know anyone else who wants to come and hang out with you while you're doing all this? What is her current profession? She got sober in her 20s. Now she helps people with addiction and trauma. Shout out to her. Were those emails very friendly in tone? Yeah, they were. Then there was a search warrant. Did you personally search his house? Yes. Did you go into the townhouse? Yes. Could you describe what the massage room looked like? Yes, disgusting. It was dark draperies, oils, massagers, walls of photographs of young females all over the walls. I believe you testified a moment ago that Maxwell asked her to wear a schoolgirl outfit. Did you find that outfit? Yep, along with all of the other disgusting things that are in there. Is the individual referred to as victim 1 in the proposed indictment? Is this girl named victim 1? Yep, that's her. Is this girl named victim 2? Yep, that's her. Is this girl named victim 3? Yep, that's her. And they were all underage. Now, switching gears, have you become aware that there's civil lawsuits and that there's things that are being said under oath? Reading her from some of Maxwell's deposition. She gave testimony. Go through the remaining slides. Is this an excerpt from the transcript? It says, yes. Did Epstein have a scheme to recruit underage girls? Objection from the lawyer during that. Reading her testimony. And just to be clear, you testified earlier, Ghislaine, that you participated in massages with Epstein and Maxwell. Someone else says, is that right? Yes. So the minor victim, and blank was a minor when that occurred? Yep. And did you testify earlier that so-and-so told you that Maxwell asked her to give Epstein massages when she was a minor? Yep. So someone else testifying in another civil case, they bring in her testimony to the grand jury, talking about toys, talking about Palm Beach. And have you been involved in other activities? Another objection during the depo. And we're fast forwarding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they take a 5-minute break. Witness is temporarily excused, and we're back. Okay, talking about the PowerPoint slide. When did these interviews take place? 2020, 2021. And they talk about MySpace. Yeah, how old did so-and-so recall being in this photograph from her MySpace? 16. What's her date of birth? This is the date. Now, she had a troubled childhood, then learned and met Epstein, and we're getting into another victim, and you get the pattern. So we'll fast forward through some of this. Other person's name. What phone numbers would Epstein's employees call to schedule appointments? They'd call these numbers, multiple numbers. Setting up massages. People would come, meet in the driveway, meet in the kitchen, go upstairs, go to the massage room. She would begin the massage. Something about nipples, then totally nude, then touching genitals, then Palm Beach. Talked with Maxwell. Maxwell asks her about her experiences. Maxwell's also a disgusting pervert, talking about other toys. Someone else is 14. All right, so I think, get the gist of it. We want to come to the conclusion of the presentation. Did Maxwell ever see this girl naked? Yeah. In particular, does this girl ever recall multiple times when Maxwell saw her naked? Maxwell doing this. Maxwell touched her breasts. Yes, she did. So Maxwell's also in on it. Now, notice we're not learning about anybody else who's involved. And in response to that, did Epstein engage in intercourse? Yes, he did. Younger girls would all come over. Some names. Okay, it's just pure disgustingness that's in here. So during the interviews, did someone admit that as part of an escort service, she would engage with men? Yes. Now, did she ever work for an escort service? Yes. Did she lie and claim that she only engaged in certain things? How did she explain her lie? Said she was embarrassed. She worked as a prostitute and she struggled with drug addiction, became addicted to crack cocaine and opioids, has been indicted, has been to jail. When did that happen? Schizophrenia. Can she tell the difference between voices and reality? Did you interview this girl's ex-boyfriend? What's the nature of that relationship? They have a kid. And according to the so-and-so, where he and blank were dating when she was 14. So the boyfriend of like a 14-year-old is also in here. And is explaining more about what he saw. They walk the grand jury through the final slides. They say on the left-hand side, it says picked up on October 7th of 2002. It's Jeffrey Epstein's address. What address is that? In New York. Have you interviewed a man named this? And we're coming to the close. All right. Now, turning to the next slide. Have you reviewed the flight records? Yes. Do those show multiple flights? This person under the age of 18? Yep. Maxwell on those flights? Yep. December 11th of 2000, you can see all the way over here, another flight with others. Based on your understanding of this person, how old was this person? 17. Walk the grand jury through this, another flight. Maxwell was on the flight. This person, 17. Then they took her to another location. Then you executed a search warrant. Did the police recover message pads? Yes. What are message pads? Well, it's where you take a message. Do those include several messages with this person? Yes. Do those message pad excerpts date between 03 and 05? Yes. Walk the grand jury through these messages. Sorry, it's a little faded. Walk the grand jury through these. Yeah, this one is from somebody. The date's missing. The phone number is also over here. It's from so-and-so and so-and-so with this phone number. And there were additional messages not recovered on these slides. So please describe all these for the grand juries. This is the master bedroom. It's a sink. There's a wall. There's multiple photographs. And were you just talking about the substance? Yes, I was. All right, that's all we got. So are you willing to return to the grand jury if the jurors have any other questions for you? Yes, we will. And that's the game. So that got submitted over to the grand jurors, and it's a lot of what we heard in the trial, obviously, right? This is the same basic evidence, but it's consolidated into a small 119-page grand jury transcript. And in the transcript, as we can see, is mostly disgusting debauchery and criminality and perversion and demonism occurring between Epstein and Maxwell. But what we don't see are anybody else who is implicated in any of this. It's only those two. And the victims, of course, are there for a reason, which is just to lead to an indictment for Ghislaine in this case. But all of that was being facilitated by many other people, and only 2 people thus far have ever been prosecuted. Ghislaine Maxwell, the only one ever to be convicted. So those are that's the testimony that is just released from the grand jury records back from 2021. And as we suspected, I mean, there's nothing really new in there. The whole thing was a mop-up operation, but this pattern and practice of behavior was going on for decades, and they got away with it for decades. All of what we just saw was allowed to happen for years. Epstein should have been indicted in a 60-count indictment back in 2007. They didn't. They gave him a non-prosecution agreement and allowed this stuff to continue for literally decades. So absolutely disgusting. We're happy to see that the files are coming out. And now we're asking about what comes next. So we got reaction from Todd Blanche on the release of some of these files, and reaction from Massey and Ro Khanna. And here is what Massey had to say in the aftermath of these files being released.
What are you going to do about it to force them to comply? I mean, can you do anything?
Oh, absolutely. Look, people have talked about, and by the way, Todd Blanche is the face of this, but it's really the Attorney General's office, Pam Bondi, who is responsible. And there are several ways to get at this. Some take longer, some are shorter. The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these victims, is to bring inherent contempt against Pam Bondi, and that doesn't require going through the courts. And give her, and basically Ro Khanna and I are talking about and drafting that right now.
All right, so Massey and Ro, who were silent for decades, they were in Congress for a long time. When the Epstein files came up, didn't care, not really concerned about it when Maxwell was on trial or when Epstein was killed or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to use this as an attack vector against the Trump administration and blame them for not releasing certain files that they basically inherited after decades of criminality that were embedded into the institutions by other actors. Now they're going to come after Pam and Todd Blanche. But here's what Todd has to say about all of this. And I don't think that Massey or Ro Khanna are gung-ho or authentically concerned with the victims or the victim rights as much as they are the political expediency that the whole Epstein saga brings them for their positions of power.
The Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not. And that's another trend that is just simply false. There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up. And so when we hear concerns, whether it's photographs of women that we do not believe are victims or we didn't have information to show that they were victims, but we learned that there are concerns, of course we're taking that photograph down and we're going to address it. If we need to redact faces or other information, we will, and then we'll put it back up. So we are in every way, shape, and form complying with the statute, which, by the way, is what President Trump has been asking us to do since before he was elected. There is nothing that he has to hide in the Epstein files. There never was. And even though there's repeated attempts by Democrats to paint him as being part of the Epstein saga, it's failing over and over again. And so you should not be surprised that the material that we released on Friday or the material that we're going to release over the next couple of weeks is exactly what the statute requires us to release, which is everything that we have from this case, with the exception of redacting personal information from victims and other statutes, privileges and things like that. Otherwise, everything's getting produced.
All right, so that's one from Todd, and he was also responding to this one saying the Democrats and guys like Massey are now pounding the table on this thing when they were silent for so long? Why are they all of a sudden so interested?
To be clear, releasing the files is not what President Trump has ever had an issue with. When he calls this a hoax, he's talking about the fact that there's this narrative out there that the Department of Justice is somehow hiding or protecting information about him, which is completely false, as evidenced by the fact that the Epstein files existed for years and years and years, and you did not hear a peep
Nothing.
out of a single Democrat for the past 4 years.
Nothing.
And yet we're supposed to believe that, lo and behold, all of a sudden, out of the blue, Senator Schumer suddenly cares about the Epstein files.
They don't.
That's the hoax. And that's the hoax that has existed for months and months and months. This isn't about whether we would release or not release the Epstein files. As a general matter, we do not release the files of criminal investigations and prosecutions.
Yeah.
There's laws around that. There's laws that protect victims, that protect the innocent. So we're doing something here that is more transparent than we've done in any criminal investigation in the history of this country. Don't forget that.
All right, so does that mean that they are continuing to investigate and that future prosecutions may come? Not based on anything we've seen in the files thus far. And you can understand that if there is an open prosecution, like if they've got 5 defendants to whom these women were trafficked, and they're intending on prosecuting them, then they're not going to release the evidence about those people if we want prosecutions. So it's kind of like, which one do you want? Do you want all the files and no prosecutions, or do you want some of the files and some prosecutions if you believe that people are going to be prosecuted for this, which I don't. I think that it's pretty much all just a political clown show, circus freak show at the moment. And nobody really knows what to believe because you've got so many different agencies and administrations that have all perverted the files for decades now. You've got victims out there, some of whom are pimping their podcasts out, some of whom were not under 18 at the time, many of whom who've never identified a single third party at all other than Maxwell or Epstein to whom they were trafficked. And so what are we doing here? I don't know, but I think that in many ways it's distasteful to everybody who sees that when you have some of the most evil, disgusting people out there abusing children, that they're given protection for years and years on end. They're given non-prosecution agreements that immunize all of the other groomers. There were 4 other women in the non-prosecution agreement who were named, who got blanket immunity, who were groomers. Why were they given blanket immunity as groomers? Why is every person who was down there on the island not touchable for whatever reason? Well, we don't know, but we're happy to see more files come out. At some point, maybe something useful will come out that will lead to an indictment of another bad person. Otherwise, they're just running free, and the people who provided the cover for them apparently are still in positions of power all over the country. But Todd Blanche, the DOJ, I think, trying to do what they can, dealt a bad hand of cards, and more files will be released. Meanwhile, you've got Republicans like Massey who are now jumping on this and saying that this should be an acceptable attack vector against their party, even though they were quiet about this for years. But of course, we'll see if there's anything new or interesting that drops as this file tranche release continues. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now one final update on the day, my friends, and then we'll hear from you and see what you say about all of this and more. We're talking some illegal immigration now and wife beater Kilmar, who needs to be deported. Here we go. Department of Justice and Homeland Security saying the judge screwed up big time. In the District of Maryland, we know it's Judge Zenas, and she had previously said there was no final deportation order for this guy, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, aka the wife beater, who, according to her and her 2 orders of protections, saying that he's a violent kind of screamer in their household and also beats her. But now he has been released into America thanks to Judge Zenas. She came down with an order that said that there was no final order of removal for Kilmar. And so the government returned and said, well, that's very interesting. If there is no final order, that means the case is still open. And you know what the law says about cases that are still open? We can detain the illegals pending the outcome of the proceeding. So we got a joint status report that got submitted into Maryland. This is Judge Zenas' division, the civil case. He's also being prosecuted in the Middle District of Tennessee for the crimes. But now they're getting an update from both sides. A joint status report submitted last week. They say, all right, Judge, you ordered us to give you updates. And now we've got competing updates. We've got Kilmar, who is saying, I should be released. Let me go. I'm an illegal alien in America. I have more rights than everybody else here because I'm so important to your economy, doing jobs you don't want to do, like trafficking humans into your country. We got a battle here. Kilmar is saying, let me out. The DOJ is saying, lock him up. Here's the breakdown. Abrego and his ACLU gangbanger lawyers, right? Abrego Garcia now opposes the government's motion to dissolve the injunction. Zenas issued an injunction saying, do not lock him up at all. You can't because I'm the judge. I run the country now. Government said, we want to dissolve her order. Kilmar says, no, we love Judge Zenas, rhymes with, saying, here's a bunch of updates. We request an opportunity for further briefing. They're right. All right, Judge. The preliminary injunction, we need you to keep this in place. For me, Kilmar, as this court is now well aware, immediately upon release, the government told Abrego to go back to ICE at 8 a.m. the following morning. They said in their documentation that we got a final order of removal and we're going to take him out. Then a few hours later, an immigration judge, sua sponte, issued another order purporting to create an order of removal effective October 10th. When he sought emergency release, and the government is saying, we're going to pick him back up. Then, late afternoon, December 17, 2025, the Board of Immigration Appeals dismissed Abrego's appeal from another judge, saying, we just amended the prior order. Okay, so in immigration land, they're figuring it out, and he is getting removed. Now, the events described above say, we need you to protect Kilmar, Judge Zenas. You've already recognized even if Garcia could have been lawfully removed to a third country, he could go to Costa Rica. And so the government and their conduct says they're going to try to remove him immediately. You said they can't do that until some other things happen, so deny their request. Now the DOJ is responding. They say, all right, Judge Zenas, you screwed up. You said he didn't have a final order. If he doesn't have a final order, that means we can detain him. So we said that you should dissolve this and we're going to ship this dude to Liberia. You said that we were stopped from removing him from the United States. And then you said he could not be removed because there was no final order. You ordered him released immediately. But now we submit that you should dissolve that order. He is no longer, as you said, subject to final order of removal. And because there was no removal order and you ordered him immediately released, your injunction is moot. We can't remove him right now until we get to a final conclusion. Now, while an order of removal has now been issued, it's not final. Okay, we went and got a new order, so we are in the process of removing him, but he has 30 days to appeal this. The cover letter even explained that to him. If he wants to appeal, he can. Indeed, now he points to the Board of Immigration Appeals and saying since respondents are no longer in a position to remove him, he's now released. There is no final order of removal and he's not in detention. So since he has been released, he's not in immediate danger of being removed. You cannot have your injunction in place. So you should dissolve it, signed by both sides going in to Judge Zenas. Now, they're referencing this, which came out earlier. So this is 12/12/25 in Exhibit B. They're saying, we got a new order from a new immigration judge. The respondent's name coming out of the Executive Office for Immigration Review out of Baltimore. They say, Abrego Garcia, here is a new decision from the immigration judge. Writing this. On December 11th, the Homeland Security Department filed a district court order with us. Zenas's order ordered him to be released based on a belief that he had not been previously ordered removed. Now, the Homeland filing with the immigration court noted a scrivener's error, a clerical error in the final decision. And it gave him the benefit of not being removed to El Salvador. Now, although the parties haven't raised this in 5 years, the immigration court is going to correct that error. And so we did that. Procedurally, Kilmar admitted the factual allegations back in May 2019. And so since he admitted it, we can say he is removable. Clear and convincing evidence, he already admitted it. Now, he said he doesn't want to be removed to El Salvador, so we're granting him that. In the written decision, the judge already found, yep, he can be removed. There's clear and convincing evidence. He even admitted it. Following the full evidentiary hearing, we said, we're not going to send you to El Salvador. And the immigration court also corrects another error about Guatemala versus El Salvador, something we've pounded the table on many times, which is also wrong. The family is living in Guatemala. That's where the nexus is. So it's not a scrivener's error, in my opinion, but these corrections are hereby issued, and that's the new record. So they submitted that in, and now they're saying, well, now they're going to try to deport him, and he can appeal that if he wants to, which they're telling him. Hey, Kilmar, we just issued a new order. You can be removed now, but you can appeal this. You've got 30 days to appeal that final order. Here's the copy of that order. And so he can still challenge his removal, but as it stands right now, he can be detained. And so this came in from the DOJ, the motion to quash. This is by Kilmar. So he sent this one in. He says, Defendant Abrego wants to quash the United States. This is in the Tennessee case. So a 28-pager from there. But let's jump over here and see what else is going on, because apparently these illegals are just running around our country. And in Washington, while we're trying to remove Kilmar, in Washington, they have released another person called Singh who just hit and killed somebody over there. So everywhere we look in America, we got illegal aliens running around free.
An illegal immigrant truck driver accused of causing a deadly crash on a Washington state highway has been released, with federal officials saying local authorities ignored an ICE order to keep him in custody. William Ageness has more from Los Angeles. Hi, William.
Hey, Mike, you're right. Despite that ICE detainer, not only did Seattle's King County release him, it never even presented a case against 25-year-old Kamalpreet Singh, an Indian national who illegally crossed the border in 2023. Released by the Biden administration with a work permit, Singh got a California commercial driver's license, despite rules against giving CDLs to non-citizens.
CDLs are meaningless because all of these states have given them out. Like, when somebody produces that CDL, they think, oh, they're here lawfully, when in fact they're an illegal alien.
According to police, Singh falsified his logbook before the crash by enlisting a co-driver to extend his hours.
Wow.
Police say he also made, quote, no attempt to brake, killing Blake Pearson, who was simply stuck in traffic. His sister says the system failed Pearson, his wife, and children. Held for vehicular homicide, DHS wanted to deport Singh. Instead, he was released when the state didn't charge him. The Highway Patrol telling Fox, quote, this case is complex and we're still under investigation. We have found additional detail and needed to withdraw the original complaint. The case will be refiled in the near future.
Yeah, it's not complicated at all. He's an illegal alien. He lied on his paperwork, is what it sounded like. Crossed into our country illegally, got a license courtesy of the Biden administration and the California murderers who enable this, and then hit and killed somebody. And I know accidents happen. American citizens get in accidents and people die, but we don't need to import more of them. This guy also lied on his logbook. Okay, CDL drivers are supposed to only drive for certain hours. Then you have to take a break, because if you drive for too long, you fall asleep and kill people. So they try to prevent that. He lied on it. So the guy just lies about everything, comes in, kills people. And then in Washington, they're like, well, why don't you just go, be free, enjoy the fruits of America, because we would rather have you here killing people than have the Trump administration deport you and have you go back to your home country and kill people down there. So sick times. It's happening all across America all day long. We've got judges named Zenas who are releasing illegal aliens onto our streets because they're trying to wreck the country, and they're succeeding in doing it by having people killed all over the place. So Kristi Noem came out and said, will you go home, for crying out loud? It's Christmas. Do it for Jesus. The U.S. taxpayer is generously tripling the incentive for illegal aliens to get the hell out. Through the end of the year, illegal aliens who self-deport using the Home app can receive a $3,000 exit bonus. Please go. Illegal aliens should take advantage of this gift and self-deport, because if they don't, we're going to find them, we're going to arrest them, and they're not going to return.
Well, it's home for the holidays season. So, not only are we returning those kiddos back to their families that Biden lost, we also are saying that if you voluntarily want to go home now to your country, if you're in this United States of America illegally, we will give you $3,000 through the holidays to send you home. We'll buy you a ticket, give you $3,000 to go home, and that includes people that have not been detained, maybe have interacted with us, are detained and don't have criminal charges against them. Yeah, raise your hand. We'll help you get home. We'll facilitate it, and you might get the chance to come back to this country the right way someday. If you wait until we interdict you and detain you and arrest you and have to deport you ourselves, you'll never get the chance to come back. So go on the CBP Home app and get the information, and we'll make sure you get home in time for Christmas.
All right. Yeah, go celebrate in your home country. $3,000 to help that happen. But for some reason, we have a bunch of suicidal leaders who would rather have their own countrymen killed and murdered by illegal aliens. And then when ICE wants to come in and interdict so it doesn't happen again, they will obstruct and insurrect the federal government on behalf of the illegal foreign invaders who are murdering Americans. And even federal judges are playing this stupid game. We see Judge Zenas has now released Kilmar, and the DOJ has to fight tooth and nail to get him back into custody, because illegal aliens, according to people like Judge Zenas and to other ACLU gangbang lawyers, they would prefer to have illegal aliens rather than American citizens. American citizens are very difficult. We demand things like liberty. We demand excellence out of our elected officials. We don't like corruption. We want our country to preserve its culture and to actually be effective. And that is a difficult population to please. We don't take kindly to corrupt government officials, but the foreigners do. They come in, they exploit the corrupt government officials, and then steal tens of billions of dollars from little Somalia or Sanctuary, California, or dumpster fire Chicago, whatever you want to go. It's a disaster, and we're sick of it. American citizens being murdered all over the place and federal judges enabling it. So fortunately, we've got the border locked down. We've got Homeland and ICE working hard to find these people and remove them. And now Kristi Noem is saying, we'll even give you extra money, $3,000 for free. Just please leave and do it now. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining us early this holiday season. We had some great updates on the day. We talked about how Fulton County got obliterated today. Even a very reticent Judge McBurney came back down and said, you guys lose. They have the power to demand these files. They've done that. Turn the files over. Of course, we're going to have some more hearings on this to talk about how much it costs and all those things. But we had a great stream talking and hearing from this guy, David Cross, responding to the admissions of Fulton County that their tabulators were not properly certified, or rather the chain of custody was not properly certified. All good updates from him. And Kevin Moncla also celebrating. We also saw that the black voters are now probably going to be allowed to intervene and make their case as to why looking at voting records is racist or bigoted or whatever. Brad Raffensperger is, in my opinion, a liar and a total loser. Comes out saying this: we have the most secure election in the country. Are you insane? What is it with these people? Fannie says she's like the best DA in the country. You're not. It's like the worse you are, the better you think you're doing. What kind of brain is that? So we also saw from Senator Greg Dazol, we had Fannie generating in 1 year $600 million plus in earned media against her political opponents, and Garland Favorito explaining this is just the tip of the iceberg, much more to come. Then we read some disgusting literature from the Maxwell case, including the newly unsealed grand jury superseding indictment coming out of Southern District of New York. walked us through 4 different victims and how they all got exploited in a very short grand jury transcript presentation on the Maxwell case. And of course, Todd Blanche responding to a lot of the criticism out there, even from Massey and Ro Khanna. They're all going to go after Pam Bondi now. Yeah, because Pam's the one responsible for Epstein. Right. So, all right. So that's Ro and Massey doing what they normally do. And Harmeet and the administration will have to arm themselves up, go into battle plan mode. Then we wrapped up with a short update on Kilmar. DOJ saying we can detain this guy and deport him. Kilmar saying, no, you cannot. The judge issued a new order in the immigration proceedings, so Kilmar can appeal those if he wants to, but otherwise they should be allowed to detain him. So got some updates there. Saw other illegals are killing people, and Kristi Noem is saying, please leave. Just get out, please. We'll pay you even more to just get the hell out of here, which we, of course, endorse. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And Merry Christmas week. I hope you're having a beautiful week out there, indulging in the candy canes and the sugar plums and the gingerbread man and all the things. Now, let's see what you have to say about this and more. And Membo, stick around because we're going to debrief and have a members only after party as soon as we are done here. And we got some great donos today, my friends. Thank you for these. What a nice day. Wow, this guy. Man, sometimes the Monday morning hits you just like this, like an RC car right to the face. Go back to bed. All right, Mrs. T. Rush. Hey, this one. Hey, no worries. Oh yeah, we had a very prickly conversation on Saturday. Let me share you the Saturday question that sent everyone off right here from Mrs. T. Rush, talking about women in the military. Mrs. T. Rush, what's going on? Sent this one in today. Said, my point is that we're designed for different things. We excel where men don't, and vice versa. Yeah, men and women are different, Mrs. T. Rush. Not everything has to be exactly the same, because it's not exactly the same. Thank you, Mrs. T. Rush. We already threw that grenade on Saturday, so we'll leave that back there on Saturday. But thank you for that one. Hey, Gauntlet KI. MAGA, diverse groups against woke. Focus on that. I think that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea. We try to actually follow that rule here a lot. I think it's Reagan's 11th commandment. I think somebody said, okay, you don't go and attack your own side if you can help it. If you can help it. Sometimes they need a little constructive feedback and criticism, but what's going on the right, only certain people are right enough to be allowed to speak is absolutely ridiculous, and I reject it completely. Mel Snare, what's up? Hey, 13 months as a membo, Mel. We appreciate you being here. That's a baker's dozen. Morning live. It's a morning live, baby. Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow, too, for another early live stream, and then we'll pause for the Christmas break. Mel Snare, thank you for that. Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful morning. Doan, Trump's move on Maduro is U.S. election security related as well, maybe more so than advertised. Evidence of foreign interference from Caracas abounds. Yeah, well, we read that whistleblower report. There's that former, their version of the CIA. That guy is in custody, I think, in Florida. And he sent a letter over to, I think, Trump, right? Explaining everything. Remember during 2020, Sidney Powell had that letter from that Hugo Chavez general. We read it here. We're like, this feels a little weird. But that guy was basically backing that up. He came back out and said, yeah, no, it's true. They rigged all the machines and they're all spread all over the world. Hey, voice of the people. How did the ballots exist? HAVV data is still very anomalous. AL still has a huge problem, like Atlanta, with the dead registering to vote for the first time. Well, that's why we need the records, Voice. Good to see you. Voice of the People's right next door on YouTube and Rumble. And that's why we want the records. And I don't know what's so difficult about just providing the records. If somebody else is paying for them, just go provide the records. If your election is so free and fair and the most secure in the country, Brad, why can't we just look at the files? Hey, Troy, it's not like we can reverse what happened in 2020. Biden was actually the president. Can't reverse that again. So we just want to know the truth. And we want the people responsible for the fraud to be in jail. Troy Hargrove, what's going on? Troy, 16 months as a membo, coming up on 2 full babies. Merry Christmas, watchers. Merry Christmas to you, Troy. Thanks for hanging with us for 16 months, man. It's been a long time. A lot more to go. Thanks for being here. Sun-kissed girl in the house. Sun-kissed girl. Does that mean you have a sunburn? It's not good. Not good. A little sun kissing is good, I think, but not too much. Be careful out there, sun-kissed girl. Put on some sunscreen, or don't, because I don't think it does anything. Well, anyways, that's for another day. One old guy's opinion says, Fanny, quote, the only reason why he gave this testimony is because I am an empowered woman of color, and I love to have a Nathan's hot dog. She does love Nathan's hot dogs. She loves them so much, she thought that microphone was Nathan Wade in the Congress room. Look at that big brain on Brad. That's the votes were not validated because of the metric system. What does a ballot look like? Does it look like a B? Then why did you treat them like a B? That's Pulp Fiction version. Yeah, so that's Samuel L. Jackson. Does this ballot look like a B? Say what again? Say what again? Will Crump, what's up? I am willing to bet this all will get covered up. That's a safe bet, Will. Yeah, if past performance is any indicator of future performance, it's probably a fair bet on that one. Will Crump, thank you for that one. One old guy. Pence, like Trump's first cabinet, was a deep state plant to keep Trump hamstrung. Yeah, and I think all the people, like a lot of people, are leaving like Heritage and going over to Mike Pence's little group, which is rich. Thank you, one old guy. Cheryl, I'm a poll worker in the socialist state of New Jersey. Even our PWs know some of the most important duties are signing zero-sum reports and final tally reports. Seems like deliberate failures in Georgia to me. Yeah, it'd be like if you got a blood sample drawn from your body, they put it into a test tube vial, and in that vial, there was already some alcohol in there or already some meth. It's like, okay, that's not going to be a valid sample. You got to make sure it's zeros. Can you prove to me that nobody opened up that vial and manipulated it? Yes, I can, because everything is sealed. And I cut it, and I open it. It's all brand new. It's sealed. Then when I put your sample into it, then I seal it again, and I do it all. So if you've got questions about the unsealing or the sealing, guess who you ask? The guy who filled out the form. Can't do that with the votes because nobody signed anything and nothing was zeroed out because it was rigged. Hey, what's going on? Mark Kish in the house. Mark Ish. Not Mark exactly, but Mark Ish. 85. Good to see you, Mark Ish. Fannie Willis should be removed from office. 27 months as a member. That's 3 babies. And we saw that I think Colton Moore, the state senator out there in Georgia, he said we should just dissolve Fulton County. It was the best idea I've heard in a while. What do we do about Fannie Willis? Dissolve the whole county. I know, but it's just Fannie. Like, nope. Can we just like elect somebody better than her? No. The whole county needs to go. Okay, if you say so, Colton, we support it. Tony Hay Muckets, what's going on? 32 months as a membo, Tony Hay. Hey, it's the Muckets is bringing in 5 membos along with Fight. We got Neil D. We got Pa from in the house. Blue Dream Escapes. Go-Ho Shane in the house. And Julie Adams. All gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Muckets in the house. Yeah, thank you, Tony Hay. Happy Monday to you. Merry Christmas, my friend. Thank you for bringing in 5 new membos. Membos, stick around. We'll have an after party. We'll debrief. We'll see what else is cooking over there. Hey, CRR123. Yeah, they are silent for the children trafficked on the border. Yeah, where are the Democrats on that? Where's Thomas Massey on that? How come they're not screaming about Kilmar, who is trafficking children into our country and allegedly abusing them? Where are they on that one? They're not. They just want to use this. So I think Massey has his motives. Rowe has his motives. And they're both self-serving. Neither of them are in the interest of the victims in finality. It's a collateral benefit, but that's not why. They don't care about victims. They care about their careers. Jeffrey Adams. Hey, Rob, Mike Benz, most recent podcast ties Epstein to the CIA. I saw some of that. I saw some of that he posted about that on X. Shout out to Mike Benz out there, man. Yeah, so he made a connection. He found some other bank. Basically, I think the long and short of his thesis, go watch it so I don't butcher it. But he basically, like I think his post was even that Epstein got into a position as like a niche banker who was doing transactions for intelligence communities. Like that's how he got started. And then he just developed that over a lifetime of a career. And so like, that's how the creature got created. So shout out to Mike Benz. Thanks for the flag on that, Jeffrey Adams. He does great work over there. Duke Raoul. What's up, Duke Raoul? Welcome aboard. We're going to see you in just a few minutes. YouTube friends, hang tight. It should auto-magically transfer you over to our after party. Looking forward to it. One old guy says, Kilmar is being kicked out. Judge Zenas, your order is not good enough for your Zenas. Google that word. It's a slang word. I don't know if I want to Google that word. Anus? Nah, I will take your word for it. It sounds like a good one. One old guy's opinion. Thank you for that. Hey, Gauntlet KI says, did the Supreme Court say improper entry get due process too after waiving the U.S. government due process, or just aliens that are now illegal but did give the U.S. government due process? So, yeah, due process is a dynamic phrase, and it's often hard to interpret because people will use it in one way and then you'll hear it used in that way and you'll think that's what it means. So, for example, some people will think that due process means like a full jury trial. Like you need a full jury trial. You need to be convicted before anything can happen to you, before you can be deported or any of those things. That's not true. Due process is relevant to the nature of the claim against you. Okay, if you get a civil traffic ticket, like speeding 11 over, and it's civil, you don't get a jury trial. You get a little hearing. You don't get beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't get that amount of due process. You get clear and convincing evidence or preponderance of the evidence, depending on where you're at. Preponderance of the evidence is much lower. It's like 51%. So that's the only amount of due process you get. Okay, if you're an illegal alien, you do get some process that you're due, but it's not the same as the same process that other people are due for other claims. So at the border, yeah, there is due process. There is a process that illegal aliens are due, and it's immigration proceedings via the executive branch and Article 2 courts. So it's not the same, but people use that term interchangeably, and it's just not the same. Your due process for an illegal is different than a due process for a felony. You know, removal process is different than conviction process. It's different than, you know, civil process. It's different. So they are entitled to it. If there was zero due process, then it would mean that everybody was kind of just treated differently at the border. Maybe one agent lets you in. Maybe another agent just shoots you, you know, right there on the scene or whatever. It's just total bedlam. There's no rule. So there is a process that they go through, but it's not the same across the board. 200-watt studio. Only reason that Epstein bill passed was because of the loopholes. Gives them cover either way. They know they can't release without redactions. I have real concerns about this whole Epstein thing being like the new Russia collusion hoax. Remember, they just make up claims. They use process violations to go attack the administration. Then they have people removed and eliminated from the administration based on the process crime. We saw that all throughout the Russia collusion hoax, which extended for years. I mean, really, for like 2 different administrations. So with this, I think it's going to be the same thing. They're just going to try to impeach Pam. They're going to try to impeach Todd. They're going to try to get rid of any loyalists in the administration and install their own people. So it's just the new attack vector. And I wish that the administration wouldn't have botched the release the way that it has, because I think they gave them the opening to do all of this. If they would have just released the files at the beginning, then there wouldn't be an Epstein Files Transparency Act. There's no laws. Now they're going to go to the courts. They're going to say, we have a law. They're violating the law. They didn't do it this way. Technically, I think they're right. And the judges are going to use any fake excuse they can to just hammer the administration. So it's like they kind of hurt themselves in a way. Yeah, what's going on? Hey, Gary Baines, Merry Christmas and enjoy those holidays. Tell Miss Faith to keep those lasagnas coming, from Gary Baines. Shout out to Miss Faith, who was here a part of the show a long, long time ago. We hope she's doing amazing and well. I'm sure she is. But she's not cooking lasagnas here anymore, Gary Baines. But we thank you for the shout out to Miss Faith. What's up? One old guy says, men and women are exactly the same, except they're different in every measurable way. Gloria B, Merry Christmas, Rob and Mrs. Rob. Thank you, Gloria B. Merry Christmas to you and to Mr. Gloria B. on your end. Very nice of you to say that. Merry Christmas. We're excited for it. Trump's password is here. Trump's sword is here. Says, Merry Christmas, everyone. I thank God Donald J. Trump is our president. With our local involvement, America will be great again. Everyone, the swamp is local too. God bless America. From Trump's sword in the house. Man, I love that comment, Trump's sword. I agree with you. I think that we have to stay engaged. We have to stay energized. I know there's like a civil war on the right that's burgeoning right now, and that there's some disappointments here and there and the other things, but we got to stay engaged. And, you know, there are ebbs and flows. There's winning, there's ups and downs. So we're here for it. We got work to do. One old guy says, many men and women of color being held without due process in Fulton County Jail. Yeah, how come they're not pounding the table? Like, why didn't Senator Van Hollen go visit the family of the guy who died in Fanny's jail from being eaten by bedbugs? When he was just kind of murdered in his jail. He wasn't punished, or he didn't get a sentence to die by being eaten by bedbugs. He had no due process. That was cruel and unusual punishment. Where are all the judges racing in to talk to Fanny about that? There's nowhere to be found. They're too busy hanging out with illegal aliens. So, my friends, what a lovely day it has been. Thank you for joining us. Happy Monday. We have a great week ahead, and we will be back tomorrow. Same time as today's show. So thank you for subscribing and joining us when we do come back. And now it's going to be after party time. We're going to go over, hang out with our friends on YouTube and locals who are members, debrief, see what else is cooking on the day, see what else you have to say about all of this. Let's see if we got any comments over on X as we're live streaming before we wrap it up. We have a couple. Hey, what's going on? James Pepper says, Merry Christmas. This video is a video by the American Bible Society on my Bible project to make an illuminated manuscript over the past 38 years. That looks awesome. James Pepper. Man, thank you for that. I'll check that out. Hey, Wendy Farshman says Gouveia is reviewing your work in this episode. Hey, Kevin Moncla. We didn't go too deep into Kevin's stuff. We actually did last week. We went into Kevin's stuff a lot more last week, but shout out Wendy. Thank you for tagging him for us. Retired Dave says, the board should use the fines to offset the cost of records. $5,000 per tape is a lot of records. Yeah, times, I think they said like several $100,000, right? Retired Dave. Yeah, what's up? Trump's sword. Also, when will the FBI start using video audio recording of agents' interviews? These handwritten reports only okay if there's no monkey business ordered from higher ups. In my opinion, untrustworthy as a trucker's loose leaf logbook from 20 years ago. Yeah, the logbooks, man. I used to represent truckers on logbook violations. A lot of logbook violations. And they're interesting to read and to kind of interpret and analyze. Sometimes cops screw them up too. But anyways, good stuff. Thank you, my friends, for sending those in over on X. Very nice to have you over there. Shout out to our friends on X. But now it's after party time. So we're going to go over to locals and to YouTube. And we had a couple of, it looks like, comments on Rumble that we definitely do not want to miss. So what's going on? We saw this from Bill Dozer. Bill Dozer on Rumble. Thank you, Bill. Says, anarcho-tyranny is how society falls when the criminals are given ultimate deference and coddling while law-abiding citizens are seen as the true criminals. Chaos will ensue. Also, Merry Christmas. Yeah, Bill, I think you're right about that. Like, how is it our country anymore? You do anything that Kilmar did, you go to jail. You get a felony charge, you go to prison. You can't beat your wife multiple times and then traffic humans. Hell, you're speeding down the highway. You get pulled over for driving on a suspended license or without a license. You get no insurance. You get speeding. Kilmar didn't even get a speeding ticket. They just let him go. He didn't get unsafe passengers in cargo. Nothing. Here you go. Have a nice life. FBI let him go. So what does that do to the citizens? To me, it makes me feel like we don't have a country. It feels like our country is being stolen from us in real time. And if we don't get it corrected, then what is the point of supporting your government if your government is supporting foreign invaders? And why would you continue to support them when they're wrecking your country? You wouldn't. And then that's how you start to get real serious conflicts that evolve. And we might be going there. In fact, we'll leave that for another day. But all right, so my friends, thank you for that. Rumble friends, thank you for sending those in. What's up? Mick Killer in the house. Obuk is over there. J-Ma, what's up? Good to see you. Trebly Clef in the house. Bill, thanks for the dono over there, my friend. Increase immigration? Increase immigration is watching us on Rumble? You must mean immigration back to Mexico, like from America back to Mexico. It's probably what you mean. I think we understand. Neuro D, thanks for the heads up on the Bill Dozer comment. Bill, thank you for that. Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Very nice to see you over there. Obuk, White Wolf. Merry Christmas to you, White Wolf. Common Sense. Good to see you. Yeah, Bill Dozer, the double standard is insane. It's insane. It's not even like our elected officials are working for us. They're working for the illegals. If they were working for us, anybody who's breaking the law would have been dealt with accordingly and deported immediately if we had a serious country. But we don't. They want our country to just become like an economic zone for all of the foreign illegals to invade and steal our money to the tune of billions of dollars because the Somalians need it. They're hurting. Don't be a bigot. Just give them everything, including your kidneys if they want them, which they'll come for next. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. We're hanging out after party time on Locals and on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, just hang tight. You're a membo. It'll transfer you right over. And then we'll see what else you have to say about this. And Locals friends, you two hang tight. We'll see you in just a minute. But we'll pause here for the day. It's a lovely Monday. Hopefully, you've got those pots and pans a-clanking, cooking whatever it is you're cooking, hanging up some more ornaments on the tree, wrapping up any of those final last-minute orders, and making sure those deliveries come skidding in here. What day is it? Okay, hopefully they make it. But we'll pause here for the morning and for the Monday after party time coming up. But otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do another early stream tomorrow, and then it's going to be Christmas season ahead. So, my friends, thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done that. And I hope that the rest of your day is just brilliant and beautiful. And you're doing something fun, something exciting, spending time with family, friends, all the people that we love. We'll be back here tomorrow to get into it again. Before we close out the day, big thank yous to our mods and meme smiths. Modding for us, we got K-Bean in the house. Thank you, K-Bean, for sending these in. Locals comments, we'll head over and we'll get some Locals comments coming up soon here too. Thank you, K-Bean. Thank you, Muffin Rando, for clipping for us. You guys are amazing. We love Carrie B, Donut Mind Me, John. We got Muffin Rando this morning. We got Neuro D, modding the fort down for us. Janek, Dog Digger in the house. Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, all helping out. We love our amazing mods, and we love you. Thank you for being here and joining us. We're coming back tomorrow, same time, early show tomorrow, and we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Merry Christmas. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. We brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. care. Tomorrow's lies are